Good evening. This is the regular joint meeting of the Oakley City Council. Oakley City Council acting as the successor agency to the Oakley Redevelopment Agency, Oakley Public Financing Authority. This meeting is called to order at 6:30 p.m. I will now conduct the roll call. Councilmember Henderson?
Here.
Councilmember Fuller?
Dr. OG's here.
Councilmember Meadows?
Here.
Vice Mayor Shaw? Here. And I am the mayor, Anissa Williams. We will now have the Pledge of Allegiance led by a Laurel Elementary School student, Isabella Brown. Bella Brown is 10 years old. She's a fifth grader at Laurel Elementary and has attended Laurel all of her elementary school years. Bella is a member of Laurel's Leadership Club. Outside of school, she likes to play softball and draw. Bella's family loves to camp and jet ski. She is an aunt to 2 nieces and 1 nephew.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, next we will have item 1.3, which is an update on the Delta by Roger Memon.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for inviting me back so I can share some of the information that affects our home, our Delta. The Department of Water Resources earlier in the quarter filed for a change of the version of the water right petition for the Delta Conveyance Project or the Delta Tunnel. There is a broad coalition of tribes, nonprofits, and environmental organizations and commercial fishing groups that have filed a protest with the State Water Resources Control Board, calling on the denial of the Delta Conveyance Project change in point diversion. The petition, the 2 new points of diversion would be 2.3 miles apart, and they would be on the lower Sacramento River between Freeport and the Sutter Slough. The Water Code requires protestants and petitioners to resolve differences within 180 days or by November 12th. If unresolved, the protestants and the petitioners must both file written status reports to the State Water Resources Control Board by December 12, 2024. The coalition that is opposing the points of diversion are the Buena Vista Rancheria of Miwok Indians, Shingle Springs Band of Miwok Indians, the Winneman Wintu Tribe, Little Manila Rising, Restore the Delta, the California Indian Environmental Alliance, the Golden State Salmon Association, the Institute for Fishery Resources, the Pacific Coast Federation of Fishermen's Associations, and San Francisco Baykeeper. Sites Reservoir. Adjudicatory hearings have started, and the reservoir will divert about 6% of the Sacramento River flows, impacting Delta water quality. The court found the EIR to be legally adequate. However, conservation groups that stand firm that the EIR has major legal deficiencies because it failed as an informational document and doesn't account for major environmental harm and liabilities. This is unsurprising because the EIR itself was written by the site's water authority and approved by them. Friends of the River and other plaintiffs are currently considering appealing this ruling due to the governor's streamlining. An appeal will likely need to be filed immediately. Restore the Delta still waits to hear from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency's final results and resolution on the State Water Board for Title VI civil rights complaint on the state's failure to complete the Bay Delta Plan for over 30 years. The Department of Water Resources filed a minor water request to extend permit for the Delta conveyance, backdating it to 2000 through 2025. The actual permit that they're doing this on expired 24 years ago. DWR is hiding behind what is calling a minor change to an already expired permit, trying to extend its validity through 2055. There are 50 parties are fighting both permit requests by the Department of Water Resources. The revised Delta plan is supposed to be released this fall. Hopefully the plan will improve the needed flows through the Delta, as science has long stated but has been ignored. One thing that happened during this period, on July 29th, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service listed the Bay Delta longfin smelt as an endangered species. They have found that the longfin smelt in the Delta is a separate species from other longfin smelt found in the northern reaches of California. The reproductive success and survival of longfin smelt depend upon the adequate freshwater flows for spawning and food. The main cause of their decline in population is habitat loss, primarily due to long-term reductions and alterations in the freshwater flows into San Francisco Bay Estuary. The threats facing longfin smelt also impact other wildlife species that rely on clean water and the smelt as a food source. This could affect the long-awaited delay in the Delta plan for more water. So now they're saying more flows are needed if we're going to save this endangered species. Delta environmental advocates beat back SB 1390, Senator Ana Caballero's bill, which would send more water to the Westlands Water District and the state water contractors south of the Delta. Other than Senator Susan Eggman, most Delta environmental or government agencies didn't raise their voice to protect the Delta. There are 9 Delta species that are now listed on the endangered species list. But these other elected officials decided to follow Caballero's is because she's in charge of the Appropriations Committee. They want their money. And there is an effort by the San Luis Delta Water Authority and the state water contractors to weaken the X2 salinity standards in the fall in the guise of climate change. Does everybody know what the X2 factor is? The X2 factor is a line that is down by Pittsburgh, by Rowan-Ryer Island, and they can measure the electric conductivity of the water with buoys there. And if the conductivity gets too high, they release more water out of the dams to keep the salinity out of the Delta. And it seems to kind of make sense, except for one thing is it has turned our Delta, which is a tidal estuary, which is supposed to have flows coming in and out of it twice a day. It's turned our Delta into the lake, and that's part of the reasons why so many of our species have been listed as endangered. We have a plan for climate change for modeling, but the modeling used right now has been historic modeling, and academics are now working with communities to figure out a management plan for 20 to 50 years out. The largest estuary on the West Coast should not be pre-sacrificed. And we need agricultural and drinking water here in the Delta for the people that live here. Any questions?
Any questions from the council? No, thank you. I'm glad you got to give a longer presentation this time, so thanks for asking for that, Councilmember Meadows.
Thank you.
All right, next we are moving on to item 1.4. That is a BART update by Mark Foley, BART Vice President Director of District 2.
One Good evening, Mayor Williams and members of the Oakley City Council. I am Mark Foley, VP of the BART Board, and I represent District 2, which basically is the Concord station all the way out to the end of the county line. And I wanted to come back. About a year ago, I was here, and I gave you an update about our Safe and Clean program that we initiated in September of 23, and just kind of give you a sort of preview of what we're looking for in the upcoming year. So if I could have the next slide, unless I can do it myself. Can I?
It's always the test.
See. I'm down? Oh, there. Let's try there. There we go. All right. Yay. All right. Technology, my friend. All right. So probably the most visible change you're going to see in the near future is our next generation fare gates. The great news is that they will be coming to the Antioch station this month. So we'll begin construction probably in about 2 weeks. Usually takes 7 to 10 days to do an implementation. I would warn folks that are exiting the station like myself, there will be delays in getting out of the station. We're going to be replacing that bank of 6 gates with 2 temporary gates. So it's not so bad getting into the station in the mornings, but in the evening, everybody seems to come home around the same time. So just a heads up that that will be coming your way. We've already implemented these gates at 3 stations. We've got 12 more in the queue. Our goal is to do all 50 stations, 700 plus fare gates by the end of next year. So we've got about 15 months to hit that target, and we are currently right on track. Let's do, there we go, cool. But not every story comes with, you know, a beautiful roses. This is the challenge right now for transit. As you're probably aware, BART is running a deficit that we've been able to maintain our operating structure with the help of emergency assistance from the state and federal government. That is actually stretched over a 6-year period, but it will run out in 2026. At that point, you can see on the graph in red, we're looking at between $350 to $310 million deficits in each of our operating years. And if you think back to when BART was envisioned, the idea was we would pay for ourselves through fare gate revenue. And when folks are working from home, that really impacts your ability to pay for your operating funds. As it stands, BART was pulling around 60 to 70% of our operating revenue directly from the fare gates. So that was a pretty significant impact to us. So we're in search of a measure or some alternative revenue source to help bridge that gap in a sustainable manner, not just a short-term fix. As many of you may have recalled, earlier this year, Senators Wiener and Wahab introduced a bill to enable us to put on the ballot in 2026 a funding measure. Well, that was pulled. And so we're basically in a, I guess, limbo, if you will, until the next legislative cycle to understand how we're going to look at alternatives for funding. So what I've asked the general manager to do, and my colleagues on the board did as well, was what would BART look like if we needed to really make significant cuts in the service that we provided? Right now we have the benefit of the yellow line, which runs from Antioch to SFO. We have the best headways of any line in the system. 10 minutes between trains, Monday through Friday, from opening in the morning at 5 a.m. all the way till 9 p.m. That would go to a 60-minute headway. You're looking at essentially 6 trains worth of riders trying to enter the system on one single train every hour. We would look at potentially closing at 9 p.m., having to close specific stations, elimination of complete lines of service. We alternate different services during the week and the weekends. Some of those would have to be eliminated, causing more folks to transfer trains within the Oakland area or within San Francisco. And then lastly, we might have to eliminate weekend service. And as I've reminded you last year, I was your typical rider on BART, middle-aged, middle-class, white male. You know, I was able to own a car and a home, and that changed during COVID. So what we look at now is 2/3 of our ridership is not white. Half of our ridership doesn't own a car, and a third are under the 200% of the poverty level. So simply cutting service is really impacting the most vulnerable segment of our population that relies on BART to get to school, to get to work, to get to healthcare. So we can't simply cut our way out of this. It really has such a negative impact. So BART undertook an effort to look at what our role was in the region. How does BART really support the Bay Area and its ridership? But it isn't just people that ride on BART. It's actually, and this is usually a challenge to explain to folks, it's those people who never take BART, that BART really means a lot to them. Between our Antioch, Pittsburgh Center, and Bay Point stations, 4,000 riders enter the system and exit the system every day. If you translate that into cars on Highway 4, that's pretty significant. Coming home in the evening, trying to go to work in the morning. So for us, it's really how do we still maintain the ability to provide the best possible service, to really respect our environment, and to be able to provide the best service to all of our communities within the Bay Area. And with that, I will say thank you. I'd also like to introduce Bradley Dunn, who is the manager of our government and community relations here in the audience. And so if you have any questions for me, myself or Bradley can either answer them here or we will find an answer for you. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, the last tax measure that was approved regionally, if I remember correctly, it was voted down in Contra Costa County, but it was the more affluent area of San Mateo and out to Santa Clara that pulled it in and got us in with paying higher property taxes, even though we didn't vote for it. Even though it was below the majority, we still got additional taxes. And now you're back here asking for more taxes.
Potentially, yes.
Yes, I have a problem with that. And I have a problem that it's a regional one. I don't know what you would do in Contra Costa County, but as far as I'm concerned, if San Mateo wants to run it back and forth in San Mateo County and pay for it on their taxes, out of their property taxes, that's fine. But if they don't approve it in Contra Costa County, I don't know what you do, but don't keep putting it on our houses. Our people are paying too many taxes already out here in Oakley.
I hear you, and I think that's part of what Wiener and Wahab had to look at addressing, because it isn't just San Mateo, it's Santa Clara as well. There are regions that haven't historically paid into the system, and so it's trying to navigate that sort of situation of who should pay and how it should be framed.
Any other questions? I have some, don't worry. I think we got a statistic that I didn't write down at the mayor's conference that the new fare gates have shown an increase in the fare boxes. Do you happen to have that with you?
So I believe we had 700 additional daily entrances in the system at our Civic Center station, which is, I think, our second station that we did our third station that we did the full install. So yeah, we've already seen a change in ridership behavior. I've been to the West Oakland station, and folks literally will come down the stairwell, see the new fare gates, turn around and go back up to the next station where they can fare evade. So we know that there's been a change in behavior within the system.
So has there been any forecasting done about what that will do? Like those numbers that you showed, right, where the pitfalls are going to be, has that been taken into account in any of these shortfalls?
It has, and the reality is there's no easy way to quantify what your fare evasion loss is, but we have in the past sort of ballparked it at around $30 million a year, maybe a tenth of our revenue shortfall. So it's not insignificant, but it certainly isn't enough to bridge the gap.
Okay, and then my final question is kind of also about the bond measure or whatever. I mean, I'm for public transportation. I fully believe in, you're right, there would be 4,000, 5,000 people on the streets, on our freeways if we didn't have this. But what do we tell our residents who have been paying bonds for a BART station that never actually will come here? Like, we don't have in Oakley great access to public transportation, so people who want to use Bart have to go to the park and ride or somehow get there, take a bus, which just extends the commute a crazy way. So while I want more public transportation, it also needs to be equitable, and it feels like Oakley, Brentwood, unincorporated, Knightson, all the unincorporated parts just kind of get forgotten about, and I just would like to see some equity if a bond measure is going to be introduced, because it's a hardship for our folks out here too.
Understood. And I think that's a fair perspective to take when looking at how you frame this measure, whether it's property tax, whether it's payroll tax, sales tax, whatever that looks like, trying to find the right balance that reflects the need and the use of the system as well. I will say that the yellow line has been the strongest line during the entire period of COVID. We were at day one in 2018, we were at our 5-year projection literally on the second day. So it's really been a success, a huge success for us. But I think you raise a fair point, is how do you balance that? And I'll be honest with you, every stakeholder at the table has a different perspective, much like Councilmember Fuller, about how you do and don't tax folks. I get it, ballot fatigue and taxation fatigue is a real thing. So we just have to find potentially an alternative, some way to look at how we fund this, or how we balance what service we provide versus what funding we might receive.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see you guys push on. I mean, it makes sense when you say that the yellow line was the most successful during COVID, because who's out here? It's all the essential workers. Like, everybody has been pushed out here because this is where they can afford housing. But why are folks punished for wanting to have housing and things like that, right? Like, we're providing the jobs for the rest of the Bay Area. So I feel like there needs to be some considerations in how can we make their commutes easier and more, their quality of life better. And if we're providing all the housing, we've taken on that burden, there's got to be something that happens for us transportation-wise. I realize this is not your issue to solve. I just would like that feedback brought back because, you know, I mean, it's clear from the numbers that were happening during COVID. Those folks didn't have, our people did not have an option to stay home and work from home. We're not tech, we're providing the workforce, so.
Understood. And I appreciate the comments, because I think it's a perspective that you said sometimes can get lost, that folks in the suburbs, and that's really where we are in some cases, they don't get the same value and benefit that others do. I will say that one of the items I will bring up with our general manager is, you know, BART uses a tag in, tag out, which is distance-based. A lot of other public agencies use a flat fee, so it's equal across the board how people pay when they enter the system and use it. We may need to look at that as an alternative and trying to find a way to balance the equity across the payment of the operation of the system.
Awesome, thank you. Anybody else after all that? Okay, thanks. Thank you so much, I appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Have a good evening.
Thank you, you too. All right, we are now moving on to public comments. Before I do public comments, I do just want to give a reminder for all of us up here that we want to give everybody an opportunity to speak. This will become more into play as we get later on into the meeting, but I want to make sure we're following decorum. We have rules that we want to follow, so I will look at the buttons when people wish to speak, but we need to make sure that we're honoring and respecting that. All right, so I do not wish to speak. Okay, I'll follow up with this person after. All right, so we received one online public comment. It will be entered into the minutes, and I just received a comment that I will follow up with. So if you would like to submit a public comment at any time for any item, you would just submit the blue speaker card right here. They can be found out in the hallway. All right. Seeing no additional public comments, we will move on to council member comments. Item 3. Councilmember Fuller.
Yes, Daniel Jonathan Fuller went missing August 26th, my birthday, in 2013. He surfaced in the Willamette River in Portland, Oregon, was taken out of the river with a boat wrench. Obviously been in the water 5 days, and nobody knows how he got in the water, but he was running with the wrong crowd. He was my youngest child. Tanya Fuller-Sanowski, in April 2022, was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She put up a valiant fight. They thought it was done. It was over. She died in Santa Monica Hospital of May 23rd, 2023, blood clots in her lungs. All those, they thought they had it beat, and just like it says, it just came right back. She was my oldest daughter. I say that because Marilyn Tiernan, who was the liaison here for the Diablo Water District and president of their board, tormented me and began the tormenting procedure of my death of my 2 children. That is a no-no. Absolutely a no-no. One day I get this next door message, private message. Well, what's it like when people lose a child? Well, they go through a lot for the rest of their lifetime. Immediately it came back, well, you ought to be going to a grief group. I kind of looked, well, thank you very much, but it's my family, you know, and I didn't ask you. And then I started getting all these things about going to a grief group. And then my service dog of 7 years died, and she sent me unsolicited a list of grief groups for pets that died. Now, people are called like that are called tormentors, and I've seen them with the death of my first child, and I see it here. They get in underneath your skin, then it's come to my church, and this is what you should be going and doing my seance or with your child, and obviously it was still part of yours. So to help to alleviate the grief, we'll go to a seance, and you'll start spending some money. They're just called tormentors. It doesn't fit up here. It doesn't fit in the community scenario. It just doesn't fit. I brought it to the attention of the Diablo Water District, and then Ms. Tiernan decided to go on next door to prove how wrong I was and put out, well, what if somebody said had died of a loved one, would it be proper to refer him to a grief group? And that allowed it to go for 77 answers. Obviously, it was targeted at me because I didn't respond in the proper way. Instead of just going to a grief group, I said, it's my family and I will worry about what I do with the children. So in that aspect, it's just a no-no. Mr. Trico is here, and I know he knows that's a no-no. We don't talk about my dead children. Ms. Langley is not here, but I'm sure she understands as an elementary teacher, you do not talk about dead children to parents, especially during a political campaign. I did not tell this dais that my daughter had died until February 24th, 2024. And the reason I gave was that they were just not the group to share that type of information because they would use it in a different manner. And I think Marilyn Tiernan got some of the urging on from people on the dais. My children and the death of my children is a no-no. It's an absolute no-no. Period.
Vice Mayor Shaw?
I just wanted to take my time during council comments to express my gratitude and to thank the city staff for everything that you guys do. Not just the ones that are here today, but the police department and those that we don't see that do a lot of work behind the scenes. We have a lot of projects, and not just the ones that the residents can see, but also internally, such as the ERP conversion. So over the past 2 years, with the help of our grant writer, we have received approximately $4 million in grant funding, which has done nothing but benefit the city. We are a young city with a limited budget, and our staff accomplishes so many things with the limited resources that we have. So I just wanted to say thank you. Please take that back to those that are not here, and you are appreciated.
Great, thank you very much. All right, moving on to item 4, our consent calendar. Are there any items the council would like to pull, or is there a motion to approve the consent
I
calendar?
pull out 4.1, 4.3.
I move the remainder.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to move the remainder. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second.
I
Remainder without 4.1 and 4.3.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The item passes 5-0. Item 4.1, Councilmember Fuller.
I will not vote for these minutes. They are incomplete. I hear all sorts of things. There was a resolution in May 2022 for action items, and we do this, and films have disappeared unilaterally involving the fire department. They're just all this, but they just aren't enough. And I don't care what resolution was ever passed or whatever. If you want to keep putting this out, I won't vote for it. And I'll do whatever it is to try to reverse this, to try to get down the minutes, the professional ones that Ms. Veronis has done. It was submitted by submitted up here by Mr. McMurray after Ms. Veronis, but Mr. McMurray is Ms. Veronis' supervisor. So I kind of get the feeling that maybe that was part of it. So I will vote no.
Do I have a motion to approve item 4.1?
I move approval of 4.1.
Okay, we have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstentions? Item passes 4-1. Item 4.3, also you, Councilmember Fuller.
Yes, thank you. I'll just be voting no, and we'll drop it at that.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve item 4.3?
I move 4.3.
Okay, we have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Abstentions? Item passes 4-1. All right, we are now moving on to item 5, but there are no public hearings, so we will move on to item 6, our regular calendar. Item 6.1, adopt a resolution authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding with Civic Summer Lake North LLC. This will be presented by Derek Cole, our city attorney.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. I do apologize. I needed to be in Southern California for a conference at which I was speaking, so I appreciate the council's indulgence in allowing me to appear by phone this evening. This item is a matter that staff and I have worked with Denova Homes regarding, and it deals with some issues concerning both their currently entitled as well as forthcoming development applications. There are 2 items of agreement and a memorandum of understanding to which we have agreed or that we propose to agree subject to council approval this evening. One deals with the implementation of mitigation measures for the Denova Homes entitled projects as well as forthcoming projects. These are mitigation measures that are set forth in the East Cypress Corridor specific plan that was adopted in 2006. One of the things that did not happen after 2006 is that there were several mitigation measures concerning traffic impacts. So signals, road segments, both in the county or both in the city limits as well as in the county, going out all the way into Knightson. There were several intersection improvements and signal improvements that were required for the developers that would develop that area, and that would apply to all of the area developers in the ECCSP. That, for whatever reason, was never codified. It was not put into our traffic improvement or traffic, our TIF fund. And so what we have done is come up with essentially a contractual fee that is an agreement between Denova Homes and the city, and it is in the amount that is stated in both the staff report and in paragraph 1 of the memorandum of understanding. There is a memorandum prepared by a consultant known as TJKM that did document all of this. If the council has some questions on the nuts and bolts of that, I might recommend that be handled by staff. But the bottom line is this is a way of capturing the impacts, essentially the fees paid for the impacts that require mitigation as set forth in the specific plan. So this will apply to the currently entitled development as well as the forthcoming applications. We also similarly have a fee that is for the Bethel Island road improvements. So that is also something that is set forth in the specific plan, and we have developed a metric that would essentially require the developer to pay about a $5,600 per lot fee. And again, that covers all of the costs, which is about $4.6 million. That's in an exhibit that's attached to the memorandum. Again, I would not be the best person to get into the nitty-gritty of how those numbers came up. That would be a staff question. But the bottom line is this is something we have been working on. We appreciate Denova's effort to work with us on this. They've been very cooperative, and so it is my recommendation that the council approve this memorandum, give the city manager authority through the attached resolution. I'm happy to answer any questions. And again, if there are technical questions, numbers questions, I would recommend that someone from staff handle that.
Great, thank you. Does any member of the city council have questions for staff? Okay. Just for my clarification, we're putting out a great deal of money for East Cypress. Some of this money potentially will help to offset some of the city costs, or at least to fund future projects that we're pulling away from in order to fund East Cypress.
So the kind of the two buckets of money that this agreement captures is improvements required by the city-county transition agreement when we annexed that land in that area, and also to address the mitigation measures as part of the East Cypress Specific Plan EIR. So this does not include the traffic impact fee, both at the local and the regional level, which will still be required. So this addresses more of the mitigations and the commitments made from the city to the county. But we are collecting traffic impact fees as well, which will help replenish what we're putting out to improve East Cypress Road.
Great, thank you. Okay, no other questions? All right, we received no public comments on this item, but if there's any members of the public who wish to speak on this, please feel free. All right, is there any discussion on this item, or would anybody want to make a motion?
Well, I'll move for 6.1 as submitted.
Okay, we have a first. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any noes? Any abstentions? All right, the item passes 5-0. All right, moving on to item 7, reports. 7.1, Mr. McMurray will please give his city manager report.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, members of the City Council. Just a few reporting items. First, I'd like to call attention that we are having our Heart of Oakley celebration, this annual celebration. It will happen on September 21st here at Civic Center Plaza and in the downtown from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. So we'll have a ton of family-friendly activities. So please come down and enjoy yourself. Also, we've attached the August new business license list as part of this agenda packet. That's there for your view. And lastly, we've been working really hard behind the scenes on the new library and community center project. We've done a lot of work, and one of the pieces that we've done is work with Contra Costa TV to produce a video that captures the essence of what we're trying to do here in Oakley and specifically in the downtown. So we'd like to unveil that tonight at the City Council meeting, and then you will start seeing it a lot on social media over the next months and beyond. So hope you all enjoy. I think the county was a great partner to work with. They exceeded our expectations, and they just did a phenomenal job. So I hope you all enjoy it.
If you look around at all the beautiful, amazing upgrades we've made to Oakley, we need a library and community center that supports that. We currently share a library with the Freedom High School. We have far outgrown that library. It was only meant to be a temporary fix.
Oakley's growing. It's one of the fastest growing cities in Contra Costa, and we still have this library.
There isn't a separate space for teens. There isn't necessarily a separate space for kids or adults. There isn't a quiet space to study or just read.
Being a student going here now, often there can be a lot of distractions coming from the other side, and it would just be nice to have our own space with our own resources.
Our current library has outgrown its current space at Freedom High School, and we plan to build a new library and community center here at Civic Center campus.
When people hear about the library, they probably don't realize all of the amazing things that we want to bring to it. So our community center piece of this is a really vital portion of it. Not only will it serve as a place for our veterans, our seniors, a bunch of nonprofit groups that don't have a space they can call their own to come conduct meetings, interact with the public, and give people really valuable resources.
Well, the main challenge is the size of this facility, and we only have two larger rooms. And when we have our luncheons, or if we have an exercise class, and then we have a different class, we have to constantly break down tables or set up tables.
Right now, we can't afford to pay anybody to come in and give a class, but the city has even more resources than we ever have here. So it would be just a total win-win.
You know, the reason why people move to Oakley and to East County is they love that small town feel. And that small town feel comes from all these organizations, all these groups of people that bring people together, whether it's the veterans, the seniors, the scouts, all of these different groups. And that's why we need a space for people to come together.
We are limited in programming because we only have access to the school side of the library when they're not in session. We have to do programs one at a time, so we can't have an adult program going on over here and a children's program going on over there.
We are passionate about the resources that the library provides to the community. I imagine this hub that's in the heart of the city where people can come together, not only look to the facility for resources, but ways to grow the community, ways to enrich their lives.
You know, there's other partnerships that could happen. Maybe somebody, an organization using the community center rooms as well as the library doing programs in coordination. To me, it's a natural fit because libraries are for the community. You know, they're that space where people can go where they're not expected to buy anything.
I think that we really need a new library that's going to really be what a community that's already in existence needs, and a library for the people that are going to be moving here in the future.
So I really encourage folks in the community to help make the new library and community resource center a reality by either volunteering, donating, or helping spread the word.
Find out more about our project by visiting our website engage.oakleyca.gov. Thank you. So I hope you all enjoyed it. It's pretty cool to see. And you know, like I said, we're working hard behind the scenes. We'll have more, I think, information and ready for a real detailed discussion at the beginning of next year. But the fundraising effort is ongoing. The Friends of the Oakley Library are doing an amazing job. And the next fundraising event is being hosted by the Rotary Club of Oakley. And that will be a Texas Hold'em tournament on October 11th. So the information's out there if people want to attend and help this great effort. And that concludes my report.
Awesome, thank you. Great video. All right, moving on to item 7.2, Oakley City Council. Oakley City Council acting as the successor agency to the Oakley Redevelopment Agency. I am moving on to A, reports from council liaisons to regional committees, commissions, and boards, and Oakley City Council. Oakley City Council acting as the successor agency to the Oakley redevelopment agents. All right, Vice Mayor Shaw, you're first.
I attended the library fundraiser luau on the 16th, and it was told to me that after expenses, they raised $12,000 at that event, which is amazing. The event was very well attended, and it was a lot of fun to be at. On the 21st, we had a library subcommittee meeting, which is where I found out about the money that was raised. We also talked about, at that meeting, the seniors had a pancake breakfast, and they wanted to donate half of the money that they raised to go to the library. They are also talking about potentially trying to co-host a spaghetti fundraiser. Josh mentioned the Texas Hold'em fundraiser put on by Rotary. Conversations about hopefully soon we can start raising the thermostat. The video promotion that we just saw, and working on that RFP. So a lot of great work has been going on. Those meetings are very helpful. We obviously had the special council meeting later that night. And then we had the senior subcommittee meeting on the 26th, where we got to discuss programming. We had our staff come in and talk to the seniors about different types of programming, asking them what they do now, what they would like to see moving forward, what the club would like to keep compared to what the city will be doing. And some of those were square dancing and line dancing and computer classes, Spanish classes, obviously arts and crafts, movies, ice cream social. They just had a whole list of things that they wanted to do, talking about where those classes would take place. But it was great to have the staff in so they could really get an idea of what the seniors wanted compared to the seniors being able to ask kind of what the programming would look like being taken over by the city. So we did discuss a lot of what's going to be kept at the club level and what's going to be taken over by the city. And then on the 27th, we had our tour with Congressman DeSagne for the library, and it was great to show him around. We've done this now with a couple of our electeds, and for them to actually be able to go to the location and see it, I think is more than just getting it on a piece of paper with a request. So we finished up that tour with a check presentation for the Enrico Cinquini Park. And then I left here and went out and spoke at the Commission for Women and Girls. They were looking for somebody to be presented for the Her story. They asked me to speak on overcoming adversity and getting into politics. It was emotional. I didn't know I was going to get emotional, but it was really good to see that there were a lot of people in the room that didn't think that because of their upbringing and the things that they've gone through in their life that they would be accepted into this political world. And so I got to kind of give them my life story, and a lot of people are starting to show interest. So I hope I even just helped one person decide to get into serving their community. We had Friday Night Bites on the 6th and participated in the Creekside Cleanup on the 7th.
Awesome. Councilmember Henderson?
Since our last meeting, I also attended the library fundraiser, the Iron House Sanitation District's meetings, the Senior Center Subcommittee, Friday Night Bites, and Movie in the Park.
Councilmember Meadows?
I also attended the library fundraiser, which was a good event, and we'll be attending most likely the poker tournament. I attended the check presentation where Congressman DeSagne presented a check for $850,000 for the Enrico Cinquini Park. And then I attended the planning committee meeting last week for Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
Councilmember Fuller?
Yes, I had the pleasant opportunity to shake Representative Saltier's hand for all he's done for disabled Americans over the time that he's been in Congress. He's introduced many bills that go unheralded, but they're great for advancing and enhancing the lives of disabled persons. I brought my dog into my new dog, Anja, who is now at home for good reason. I went to go acquaint her with the auditorium, with the council chamber here, and on my way out, I happened to stumble across, I guess it was a library committee, and one of the people wanted to see my dog, and I cannot say it was a pleasant exchange, but I don't think I will have to worry about seeing something like that again. So, thank you.
Okay, you know me, I attended a lot, so it's gonna be long. I'm very sorry, everybody. All right, Friends of Oakley Library fundraiser. It was amazing. They had a local Instagram celebrity that I was really hoping was gonna be there, and it was a nice surprise to have him be there. He's a big library advocate, so it was really exciting. I did have, while it was very honorable, it was a very sad moment. The attending commander of the VFW, Staff Sergeant Bill Weber, did pass very suddenly. He battled with cancer for what felt like a very short time. While the VFW is in Brentwood, he was a huge advocate of trying to bring resources to Oakley, and he was really working sort of lockstep with me to try and bring some of that stuff. So it's a tragic loss. His family is amazing. They do so much for our community. So I know his commitment will continue, and I would hope that we're able to bring something here to sort of honor his life as well. Library stakeholders meeting, Vice Mayor Shaw took a lot of the glory out of that, but I will share the number that so far the Friends of the Oakley Library have said that they've raised around $550,000 for the library, so we will be able to move up that thermostat soon. I did also speak as a panelist for the Contra Costa County Senior Legal Services Council. I sat on a very impressive panel. I was definitely the very least impressive person there, but it was really nice to speak to a lot of people who can help with resources for our seniors. I brought up a lot of our senior issues, not just a lack of sort of the resources, but also, some of the legal challenges that we seem to be having seniors encounter. And so I was able to make some really good connections and have already gotten some resources here. I also attended the library tour with Desaulnier and his team and the check presentation. Later that evening, while Vice Mayor Shaw was going to the Women and Girls Commission, I attended Congressman Desaulnier's town hall on transportation, and that featured speakers from both Tri-Delta Transit and CCTA, and I was advocating for kind of what I was saying at the beginning here, a little more equity in transit coming out to Oakley, so that was nice to go to. The mayor's conference happened. We got a presentation on the state of the college by the Contra Costa College Chancellor. That's a lot of C's. Contra Costa College and DVC are celebrating 75 years, and LMC is celebrating 50 years. The district serves over 50,000 students annually. The district is made up of 5 elected board members and an elected student board member. She was sharing all of the great transfer pathways. There's 81 transfer pathways with guaranteed admissions to CSU. Last year, over 20,000 students received free tuition. Most of their classes have reduced or no-cost textbooks. There are wellness centers to meet all the basic needs of students and their families with food pantries, online mental health services, and regular health services, technology loan programs, and they were giving sort of an overview of how California compares to the rest of the country. There are 2.1 million students served in 116 community colleges across California, but Contra Costa College gets used a lot for the examples and the models of how the other community colleges should run. And an important statistic, and one that was especially important for out this way, is that more than 70% of our community college students are of ethnically diverse backgrounds, and you definitely see that playing out at DVC, at LMC more than any place else. We also got a presentation. One more thing that was really exciting for me when they talked about the economic development that community colleges do or provide. So Community College District added $1.8 billion in income and supported 22,510 jobs. So I think that's important when we see all these. They were also asking for bond measures that are potentially coming up. So I just think it's important to know the economic development that we get out of it before we just blankly say no to a bond measure. Bart also came and did a sort of a presentation, not really a presentation, just comments. Bart just had its highest ridership day since the pandemic. I should have talked to him about that too. So that's exciting that ridership is increasing. We also had a conversation by the Contra Costa climate leaders, and she mentioned that today we are experiencing the coolest summer that we will ever have in our lifetimes without further intervention. And yeah, that was it for the mayor's conference. I also attended the Creekside Park Oakley Youth Advisory Committee cleanup. It was very well attended, very well done, and hopefully we can have on the agenda sometime soon to get another presentation by Oakley, the OYAC, because they were really great. And I then had a meeting with Pittsburgh, and where we were talking about their youth advisory committee, and they're also starting a youth in government program, and it's something that's sponsored by the YMCA. I would love if we could get our OYAC with their group, and if we could come up with ways that they can do that too, because they take over the Capitol basically for 3 days, and they sit in all the different chambers, and it's just been a really great program. It's Pittsburgh's first year doing it, but I would love to see if we can figure out a way to sort of partner and work off of that. There's tons of scholarships that are available, so it would be, affordable for our folks to go to too. Okay, so that's it. Those are my reports, and we can move on now to item B, request for future agendas. Councilmember Fuller.
This is not necessarily an agenda item, but I would ask at this time if we might look at, you can fit our mics with P screens. They're the little ones that go in front of you. You always see the singers, and they filter out, and the sound comes across clearer. That's the purpose of them. So I don't know if they would, but maybe if you can talk with our audio equipment, what we might do to eliminate some of the and a little bit clearer dialogue, I guess is better, for lack of a better word.
Does that need to be a future agenda item, or can you just look into that?
We'll look into that.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I also have a request for us to, it does not have to happen over the next, few meetings, but I would like to have us look at what it would mean to bring an inclusionary housing policy here. Do you need a second on that? Okay.
What kind of policy?
Inclusionary housing. Inclusionary housing, where a portion of every housing element that's built has to include affordable.
How do you want to include it?
When a builder builds, we can make them do a percentage that has to be affordable, if there's a policy.
Well, I'll be glad to, but I know that we are selling our excess, or I don't want to say excess, but the property we're not using with that right now, that's our policy. If they want to buy the property, they can. As far as the other, we can look at it. I'll second that. But
thank you.
I want to acknowledge what is going on.
All right, great. I think we are done with future agenda items then. Item 8, work sessions. There are no work sessions this evening. Moving on to item 9, closed session. We do have a closed session item. It is item 9.1, conference with real property negotiators pursuant to Government Code section 54956.8. The property is Neroli Road, Oakley, California, APN 041-021-025. The agency negotiator is Joshua McMurray, our city manager. The negotiating party is Diane E. Schatz. Under negotiation is the price and term of payment. After that, we will adjourn. Our next meeting will be held Tuesday, September 24th, 2024, beginning at 6:30 p.m. in the Oakley City Council chambers, and every member of the community is invited to attend.